Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Alicia Dianne Art. I'm Alicia Dianne, and welcome to everybody from Cartoon Art Center. We are finishing up, finally, book two, Selling for Dummies. Today is actually our last session. I was planning it for to be like still like doing the last three chapters like one at a time, but they were so like short and brief. I just read them all in this last time, and it was really fast. So unlike the rest of the book, which I think it has been 7 months because I believe we started in May of 2024 and it is now February 7th, 2025. And yeah, these are definitely the quickest chapters in the entire book. And I'm glad because it's the last three chapters, so it was kind of a breeze to get through. So that was really good and a really good surprise for me. Next week, we are starting Steal Like an Artist, so make sure that you get this one for next week's reading, and we'll start that one next time. But for now, let's go back over what we started this week, and it was part 6, part of 10. That was the section. It was the last couple chapters of the book. And let's see. Sorry. It starts off chapter 19 with the 10 biggest mistakes to avoid. I think this one was the shortest of the last three chapters, I believe. Because let's see, this 19, 20, and 21. Yeah, I think this was the shortest one. 10 biggest sales mistakes to avoid. So some of the things it talks about is selling is done through the gathering of sharing information via professional skills. These skills help the prospective client make decisions to make him move on making the final ownership of the decision. That doesn't really make sense to me, but I highlighted for some reason. It must have had some kind of significance or importance. One thing it also says is you can't know too much about why people do and do not buy your product, aka your art, or your service, which also is your art. So if you're serving somebody, if you're looking for freelance work, if you're selling your paintings, if you're selling your creative works at a convention or whatever, you want to know why people are buying what you're buying. Even if you're not at that stage yet, you still want to know like what makes people interested or not interested in your work. Even if you're at a student level, it's still a good time to start gathering that kind of information. So professional salespeople or persuaders are low-key, service-oriented relationship builders. So it really reiterates the point that you don't want to be pushy. I hate when people are like pushy salespeople, like when you go into a furniture store. I'm not gonna mention the name, but it starts with an A, and then like you're trying to just like browse, and then they're following you everywhere, and they're like, you say I just want to look, and then they're asking you like, they're just like they won't give up, and that's like really annoying. You have to let people breathe because people don't like, I don't know if anyone likes a pushy salesperson, but I definitely don't like that, and you don't want to become something that you don't even like. That's like key. It says when you're talking too much and not listening enough. It says when you're talking, you're only telling what you already know. When you ask questions, you discover what your clients know. And let's see. He asks questions, takes notes. A professional salesperson asks questions, takes notes, and listen intently on the customer because you want to know what your customer wants. A professional sales training involves more questioning and listening. So I think it's like reiterating that. Using words that kill sales. It talked about this in the earlier chapters. Like you don't want to like ask them if they want to buy something. You want to tell them that they're going to invest to acquire something. Like there's certain words that you use and you don't use because you don't want to scare people off with words like contract when you can say agreement, or like just using the right type of language so you don't scare people off. So that makes sense. Not knowing when to close the sale. They talked about that earlier. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to the signs when somebody is interested in buying what you're selling or like signing that agreement and making that deal with you. So paying attention to that, knowing how to close, just like asking like certain types of questions like will you take it today or shall I ship it? So you want to just make sure that you're asking for the sale. It's so funny. This actually happened to me one time, and I was at it was the Fiery Food Show that they have in Albuquerque every year. It's like in springtime, And I was like, give you little samples of like hot sauces and barbecue sauces, and I tried one, and it was just like amazing. I just had never had like a barbecue sauce that was just that good. And I was like, just like raving about it. Oh my god, it's so good. Oh my god, it's so it's really good. And then the guy was just like, why don't you buy it? And he was at the counter, you know. I didn't think he was like being rude, but he was just like, you know, if you like it that much, then why don't you buy it? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll buy it. But it's funny because, you know, especially when you're tight on money and you might really like something, but something in your head might be blocking it. Like you just haven't made that decision yet, even though you already are sold on the product. You still haven't made a decision to give your money to it. Just that one little question can be the make or break of it. And like with me and the barbecue sauce, it worked. Failing to pay attention to details. This can also break your sale or be a mistake to avoid. It says when you wing it in your presentation, skim over the details, ignore important cues from others. You also skim over potential wins. So just making sure that you are paying attention, preparing yourself. This is something like making presentations is something that I'm new at, and like realizing, okay, this is something that I want to have in my toolbox of things. So this is something that I've been starting to do, is prepare those types of things and explaining things. I know sometimes you feel like you're reiterating yourself or repeating yourself when you're telling more than one person like the benefits of working with you or buying something that you're selling, but you're not. You told somebody else, but you didn't tell this person. So don't make sure you don't skip on the best parts of you and what you have to offer. All right, it says neglecting keeping in touch. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm just going to point out the ones that I highlighted specifically. It says when all it takes is a bit of regular contact doing business, why would you get so lazy to let them go? So making sure that you stay in contact with people. So that was chapter 19, just mistakes to avoid. And then chapter 20 is 10 plus 1 ways to master the art of selling. And so it's 11 concepts to help you master your selling. And it says develop your curiosity, so you never want to lose your enthusiasm. Keep in mind that masters are always students first. So I read this meme / like comic last week, and it said it had like these two characters, and one character said, I want to be really good at something, and the other one said, we'll be bad at it first. And I don't know why, but it just struck a light bulb in me, and I was like, that is exactly how it is to learn anything. It's like you have to be okay with being bad at it first if you ever expect to master something. It's okay to not be an expert like the first couple of times you try something, or even like the first year you're trying something, you're learning. But after you keep it up and you keep it going, and you start to get really good at it. And that's one of the things that I realize in my own life, and hopefully that you can realize in your life as well. Having realistic expectations. That means both being realistic about your wins and realistic about your losses. Be open to change. Let's see, what else does it say? It says rehearse and perform your skills. So like you want to go over like the highlights in this book and the things that you learn. Personalize your new sales skills. And one of the things I also talked about was like just learning one or two skills at a time. Don't try and like learn everything at the same time and practice everything at the same time. Just practice a key thing. It says two, but I'm going to say one. Just take one thing and just work on it till it's not scary anymore. And then try to add something else. Like for me, it's the presentations. Like that's the biggest thing that's new for me, that I haven't done before, that I'm learning how to do. And so I'm not even going to worry about the other things right now. I'm just going to practice presentations, and then when I feel really comfortable with that, then I'll pick another one. Be disciplined. So whether it says whether you skip out on going out on Friday night, or you wake up earlier, whatever it needs to be to work harder and get the results you want, then be willing to do that. Evaluating your results, I think that kind of goes in line with being disciplined. Keeping a success journal. One of my favorite authors, Jack Canfield, always talks about success journals and like goals books. So those are types of things that you should look up if you haven't already seen those. You might want to keep track of stuff like that. It can help you to see what you're doing right and repeat those things. It says learn from every selling situation around you. So one of the things it talks about too is this like listening whenever you're like in a store or maybe at a convention or someplace where some people are discussing something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a money transaction, but there's always people trying to convince someone of something else, or trying to tell someone, get someone to agree with them about something, or just trying to get them to understand them. And all of that is related to selling, and all of like, you want to pay attention to the things that work and the things that don't work, because it works with your selling as well. Making a commitment to lifelong learning. I think that's already me. I'm constantly a student. And it says put your clients first, and that's kind of the obvious. You want to make sure that you do what Lisa Nichols says, serve your way to a sale, and I think that that is really important. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your clients. That way they'll want to come back, and they'll send other people your way too. And the last chapter, chapter 21, is 10 alternate closes, and it really is just that basic. It's a super fast chapter. It's just a couple of pages, and it just gives like, it gives you just closes. It just gives you like the script for closing a sale, and it gives you 10 different versions. Like one of the ones that says, my dear old mother, which I think it would need to be reworded, but basically, essentially it says, my mother once said silence is consent. Was she right? I don't know if I agree with, like, the word consent is very, in today's climate, it's not, I wouldn't use that word. Like, I would find something else. But it's saying if you're like explaining something and you're giving like maybe a presentation, or you're telling somebody about your product and you're just completely silent. So you might want to say, oh, you're silent because you're thinking how many you want to buy. And it can be an opening for like a joke or like a haha, but still give them an opportunity to actually go ahead and close the deal. So it gives you 10 examples. Let's see. You don't want to like cheat yourself, like type of with clothes. What else does it say? Tell me how you can accept this kind of, and one was like guilt tripping, which I don't know how I would do this one. It said for life insurance, it's just like, you want to say no to your family's future, would you? Some of them are like, I would definitely reword them, but I think it's a good like idea prompter. So I would go back over these if I was trying to, maybe even like before a convention, or before like you're going to a big sort of a opportunity where you could network and potentially get work. You might want to just go over these and just think of maybe how could you reword these. Let's see. So another one was like, so there's like a 72-hour clause for contracts, and so you want to include like, while you're closing initially, is if you think you might change your mind, and tell me now, so that they don't feel like a sort of like they're coming out if they like, change their mind 48 hours later. So you want to kind of give them the opportunity to change their mind, so that they don't maybe second guess it later. And that way too, that that they're really sure about working with you, which you want them to be really sure. And let's see, another one, not in the budget clause. So it's like, you wouldn't want to let your budget stop you from having what you want, would you? Like I said, a lot of these need to be reworded, but I appreciate the fact that he gave these. It feels like a like this, like a bonus chapter. Like it didn't need to be there, but it's just a nice little extra to help you to find the right words, especially for artists who, like, we're not the best words people, and like we don't know what to say always. But maybe if you put these into Chat GPT, they can give you like a better option. Like maybe, I think I'll probably do that. Like put some of these into Chat GPT and see if it will give me like a better sounding way to put these. The take it away close. So it says, before we place an order, we need to go through a financial process to see if you qualify for this investment. Should we proceed? It is like almost like when you qualify them, it makes them feel like they're like earning earning this thing that you're selling them, which makes them feel like they're like more in a small niche group of accepted clients. So I mean sometimes it is like, I know that whenever you try and apply for a credit card, you really want that thing. It's like, all right, hopefully I make it. Or like, even if you're applying for a school, or if you're applying for or even if you're applying for like a job or you're applying for something, you want to feel like, all right, once you get in, it's like, all right, even though you have to end up paying them a lot of times, it's like, I made it, and it feels good to make it. So ultimately, I would give this book a solid 6.5. It wasn't the best book I ever read, but it was helpful and it gave a lot of tips. It was a long read, but so I wish they would have taken the rest of the chapters and broke them down into more digestible bites, because I feel like that was the hardest thing for me to get through the book. Was the chapters were just, most of the time they were really long. So I would just, if I would to critique it, I would just say even maybe he could cut some of the fat on some of